Yo, what's up YouTube? Komi here, back with another Genshin Impact video. Today we're bringing back the Abyss Guide for Abyss Guide 2.5. Once again, I'm a little bit late with it. I think there's only 4 days left for the current rotation, but it stays for the next 4 weeks as well, so you still have time study the enemies and use the tips I will give you in this video. If you guys enjoy my content, feel free to subscribe and like the video. I'm live on Twitch 4 days a week at twitch.tv/Komemos. If you want to join the Discord as well, I stream Abyss on Discord from time to time as well. So yeah, if you guys enjoy it, feel free to join the community and let's get into it. So this new Abyss comes after the release of Yae Miko, so there is an interesting buff in this Abyss. We're going to look at the Blessing of the Abyssal Moon as usual, and we'll see that it's really made for Yae Miko or for Electro characters in general. So if you have Raiden, Fischl, if you use Beidou, they work really well in an Electro Charge team like Tazo team. As you can see, when you proc Electro Charge damage on the enemy, their Electro resistance decreases by 10% for 10 seconds up to 4 stacks. So you can get up to 40% increase, Electro resistance decrease on the enemy, which can boost your damage insanely. And we'll also see that the enemies are not too tanky in this Abyss, except the first chamber of Floor 12-1. So yeah, we'll talk about it a little bit later, but yeah, if you can take advantage of the Blessing of the Moon, it's always a good buff. There's only 4 days left on this one, so it's going to be different on the next rotation. So since we're looking at a new rotation with new enemies for floor 11 and 12, as usual, we'll begin with floor 11. So if we look at the enemies, for Chamber 1, we have an Abyss Herald in the first half with Cryo Abyss Mage, and second half we have Geo Bishop with Electro and Pyro Whopper Flower. As usual, I think for 11, if you are AR 55 or even 50 and you have decently built characters, for 11 is pretty easy, at least Chamber 1 and Chamber 2. For Chamber 2, basically the first half is Hydro and Cryo, so you want to bring a Pyro and Electro units, and second half is Pyro and Electro, so you want to bring Cryo and Hydro characters. The enemies are not tanky at all, should be pretty quick to clear. For Chamber 3 though, the first half has the Rift Hounds, the small ones and the big ones, the Electro. So you want to bring either a team with Electro damage, because they get less, they take more Electro damage after you damage them for a little bit with Electro. Once you charge their gauge, they will take more Electro damage. And second half you have the Abyss Lecter, the Pyro one, and the Abyss Lecter Electro. So here you want to bring a freeze team, because then you can clear the Electro Shield with Cryo, and the Pyro Shield with Hydro. So yeah, if you can bring freeze team second half and Electro first half, or to be honest, any DPS in the first half should do the job. The enemies are pretty squishy. It's not the same as 12-1, as we'll see. So yeah, as usual, I'm not going to take too much time on floor 11. I'm just going to give you a quick team recommendation. I already gave you the elements, but yeah, for 11-1, basically you want a Pyro in the first team. If you go full Pyro team in the first team, it should be enough to break even the Hydro Shield. You have a lot of time, you have 5 minutes, so it should be more than enough. And second half, Hydro Cryo, so any Cryo DPS, Child works really well. Maybe a Yato, who is coming soon, will work pretty well. Chamber 2, same, you can bring full Pyro in the first team and Hydro in the second team with Cryo as well. Yeah, basically almost first team full Pyro and second team Hydro Cryo. You should be able to clear it pretty easily. Only 11-3 is a bit harder. The enemies are a little bit more tanky and you have less time, but overall it's pretty straightforward. No mechanics except maybe 11-3. the second half, if you don't have the right units, you can try to swirl the Pyro Shield into the Electro Shield. That will be helpful, but I mean, if you have Barbara, you can just bring Barbara in 11-3. It will break the Pyro Shield, and for the Electro Shield, you can literally bring any Pyro unit, Bennett, Xiangling. If you have Yanfei, Klee, Hu Tao, Diluc, anyone can work for the Electro Shield, and you should have a pretty decent amount of time for 11-3. Okay, so now that we did for 11, I know it was pretty quick, but I really don't think there's much to say. Let's move on to floor 12. We're going to do chamber per chamber as usual, and after I'm done with all the chambers, like covering the enemies and some mechanics, I will give you team recommendations for floor 12. So the first chamber brings back again the Electro Rift Hounds. The floor will start with 4 small Rift Hounds, and once you kill those 4, you're gonna have to fight 2 big Rift Hound. And on the second half, 2 Baptismal Hatchlings and 2 Baptismal Bishops. The first 2 Hatchlings are pretty squishy. The other 2 Bishops are really tanky. They drain your energy and they move a lot, so you have to be careful with that. And same for the first half. The 2 big Rift Hounds move a lot, and they are pretty tanky. I think 900,000 HP both, so a total of 1.8 million HP. You have AoE teams and AoE damage. It gets easier because you can damage both enemies at the same time. And this is where the blessing comes in clutch. Tazo team in this abyss is really strong, whether it's for the first one or the second one. So if you can build your official Beidou, Sucrose, Xingqiu, this is the perfect team for the current abyss, and it works really well. As for the mechanics, so for the first half, I think I already talked about it in a previous abyss guide when they first introduced the Rift Hounds, but basically you should be able to clear the first 4 Rift Hounds pretty quickly. I would say about 30 seconds is what you should aim for. If you have AoE, you can use a Freeze team or a Raiden National team. And for the other 2 big Rift Hounds, you want to push them into the wall. So basically, either with Overload, if you're using Raiden National team, you can push them into the wall with Overload. It works really well, and they don't move too much if you do that. Or you want to bring a Freeze team like a Yaka with Kokomi or a Yaka with Mona, and so they move the least possible, and it's easier to hit them together, and you gain a lot of time this way. For the second half, you can also freeze the big Bishops, but I would say once again the best way, Raiden National works perfectly. Or you can just use Hu Tao, works well as well. You can just use like a really strong DPS and you focus on bishops one by one. If you have good DPS, it should work. The Tazo team, once again, works super well. So you could do, for example, Raiden National first, or Tazo first, and then Raiden National or Tazo second. For floor 12, chamber 2, the first half is going to be pretty quick. There's going to be 2 rune graders. They don't have too much HP. You can bring almost any team except physical DPS team, of course. I mean, if your Eula is well built, it could work with Super Conduct, but still, I would recommend any team except physical to make your life easier. And for the second half, they introduced the Golden Wolf Lord, so it can look a little bit scary at first, but I think the fight is really not that hard. The boss HP is not too high, and of course you want to bring a Geo character in this team, so it could be Zhongli, it can be Ningguang. Ito doesn't work too well, Albedo either, so yeah, I would recommend either Zhongli, Ningguang, Goro can work as well, or Yunjin works too. Basically, there's a first phase where he's going to do 2 different attacks. So depending on the attacks he does first, you'll have more time to deal damage. But basically what you want to do is before he pops his shield, you want to bring him to around 50% HP. So after he pops his shield and the totems that you have to destroy with Geo, then you can finish him in about 30 to 40 seconds because he's gonna stay on the ground for a long time. And yeah, if his first attack is the attack where he moves a lot and then stay on the ground for a bit, this is probably the best start. And you can probably easily bring him to 60-50% HP with that phase. If you see that he doesn't do this attack, you can just honestly restart the chamber. The first half is pretty quick, so it shouldn't be too much of a problem. And then just restart until you get the right attack at the start to make your run easier. But overall, you should have around 2 minutes, 2 minute 30 to clear the second half, and the Wolf Lord doesn't have too much HP. And finally, for floor 12, chamber 3, there's going to be a first half with 2 rune destroyers and 1 rune scout. They spawn almost like pretty close together. So if you have a good AoE team, it's going to be really fast. They really don't have too much HP. Once again, this one is pretty much the same as 12-2. 30 to 45 seconds clear if you're unlucky. Should be what you should try to aim for. And for the second half, there's going to be the world boss with the 2 baptismal bishops, the electro one and the cryo one. So here, same as the 12-2 second half, the bosses don't have too much HP, but the goal here is going to be to kill them around the same time. So you have to be careful because they also drain your energy and they attack through shields. So they have a lot of mechanics you have to be careful of. But overall, I would recommend just focusing the first one. So whether you prefer the cryo or the electro, just focus one. Bring him around 40 to 30% HP. Then start focusing the other one. And you'll damage kind of both at the same time a little bit. So the cryo bishop is gonna lose a little bit of HP while you really DPS the electro bishop. And once they're around 20 to 10% both, then you can do one last rotation to kill both at the same time. In terms of mechanic, this boss is pretty simple. At the start of the fight, they're not going to move. They're going to start doing an attack on you. So start DPSing the cryo bishop or electro a little bit. And then they're going to jump on the other side of the map. So now you just want to follow them and keep DPSing the first one you attacked until it's around 30% HP. Once you reached that threshold, you want to start focusing the other one, but they're really not going to move too much in this fight, so it's pretty easy to focus the way you want. After a little bit, they're going to start spinning, just like the world boss fight. They're going to start spinning and then doing their laser attack. Really easy to dodge. So yeah, overall, I think just be careful of when they shoot their draining energy ball. Just make sure you dodge that so you can keep doing your rotations. And yeah, you can try to group them a little bit. Sometimes the other boss is going to jump close to the other one, so you can DPS them together. But as I said, just have to make sure don't kill the other one. Don't kill one too early, so you can kill them both together properly. Alright, so now let's get into the teams for floor 12. I'm going to go chamber per chamber because I think it's hard to have one team that can go through the whole floor, especially for floor 12 chamber 1. It's going to be a bit harder, so you might want to switch teams around. And at the end, I will give you my 2 best teams to do the whole floor in one go. But yeah, let's start with floor 12 chamber 1. So as I said earlier, this chamber has more HP and you need more DPS overall because the enemies move a lot as well. So for the first half, you have few options. One good option is going to be a freeze team. So you can use freeze team with a Yaka, you can use freeze team with Ganyu. As your hydro application unit, you can use Kokomi or Mona. And then you can add a very decent character like Kazuha, Venti, or Sucrose. And for the last unit, you want a second Cryo, which can be Rosaria, it can be Dayona, or it can be double Cryo with Ganyu and Yaka. It works really well as well. And basically your goal is to permafreeze the enemy and they won't move that much, so you can DPS them as much as you can while they're frozen. For the second half, you have another option. For the first team will be the Taza team, as I said earlier, with the blessing that gives you extra electro damage when you proc electro charge. The Taza team becomes really strong in this rotation. So you can use Sucrose, Xingqiu, Fischl, and Beidou. Yes, on my account they're not built, so don't take example on me. But this is a really good team, especially in that current abyss. So you can try this, especially if you have constellations on your Xingqiu, Fischl, and Beidou. I think you need constellation to make this team work in this current abyss. So yeah, if you have constellations, you can try this team. Otherwise, I really think Freeze team is the best. Another team that can work really well as well in the first half is going to be Yae. You can bring Yae in the first team. It's pretty nice with the fact that her burst auto-target enemies, so even if they move, they will still get hit. Same for her skill, so it is really good. And then you can basically make a Taza team with Yae, or you can do like Swirl with Kazuha or Sucrose with double Electro. You can bring Fischl, you can bring Raiden. That works really well with you can add another Hydro, so basically a Taza team but with different units. So you can proc Electro Charge and profit from the blessing. I tried also double Electro with Bennett and Kazuha or Sucrose, and it worked really well, so you can try this team as well. Basically, you get a lot of damage from Yae upfield, and then Raiden becomes your main DPS, kind of like the Raiden National. So it works really well too. As for the second half, you need a lot of DPS for the two bishops, and you need to find a way so they don't move too much. So one good team is also Freeze team, can work in the second half, same as first half, or you can try the Raiden National team with Raiden, Bennett, Xiangling, and Xingqiu. And the goal here is going to be to push the bishops into the wall so they don't move, and they get basically, because they get staggered a lot when you proc Electro Charge or when you push them with like strong attacks. So the goal is to push them into the wall so they don't move too much, and you can DPS them without like having to dash forward and move to follow them when they get staggered. Another team that can work could be basically anything. If you bring your best DPS, Ito works well. Xiao can work as well if he's well built. You can do double Anemo with double Geo. I like this team as well. You can do a Child National team, works really well as well on the second team. Basically like Meld team, you can bring almost anything second half as long as you have a good DPS. It works really well. Just make sure you don't stagger the enemy too much. So don't stay in the middle of the map. Try to stay around the wall so they don't move too much. As for Chamber 2 and 3, let's start with Chamber 2 first, but Chamber 3 is pretty much the same teams. Freeze team works as well in the first half, so you can keep bringing a Yaka or Ganyu, or you can even do a freeze team without a 5-star. You can use Rosaria with Kaya, Sucrose, and then Xingqiu or another Hydro unit like Barbara works as well. Enemies are really squishy in the first half, Chamber 2 and Chamber 3, so this team should be able to clear the chamber in about 30 to 45 seconds. And otherwise you can bring almost anything except physical. As I said earlier, any team can work, elemental damage preferably, melt, freeze, anything, to be honest. First half is the easiest part of this abyss for Chamber 2 and 3, so yeah, just bring what you like. Should work pretty well. And for the second half, you have the Geo Wolf Lord. So as I said earlier, you want to bring one Geo character at least. Full Geo team works really well here too. You can do Ito Zhongli with Albedo Goro, or you can bring Bennett if you need a healer, or you can remove Albedo and bring Goro if you don't have Albedo. This team works. You can bring Ganyu if you need range because you're struggling with the Geo Wolflord. You can use a team with Yoimiya. Basically anything can work in this chamber, but as long as you bring one Geo, you should be fine. You can bring Ningguang as your Geo unit. I used Ningguang level 20 and it worked pretty well, so yeah, just make sure you bring a healer in case you get affected by corrosion from the wolf, so you don't die for no reason. Even if you dodge the attack sometimes, it can be hard. So yeah, make sure you bring a healer. Bennett, Barbara, Jean can work, so yeah. And finally for chamber 3, basically the same as chamber 2. You can pretty much use the same teams, I think. First half, the enemies are still mechanical enemies, so you don't want to bring physical damage. See here the Rune Destroyers and Rune Scouts, so you don't want to bring Eula necessarily, but you can bring pretty much anything. Mel team, Priest team works as well here. You can use your Shao, you can use your Hu Tao with Xingqiu. Anything can work really. Child International. And for the second half, it's also the same. Basically, if you know the pattern of the enemy, as I explained earlier, if you know their attack and how to time your rotations, any team can work. Eula can work as well here. She has high AoE damage, so you can damage both the bishops together. And yeah, I think 12-2 and 12-3 are pretty easy compared to 12-1. So I think my the most important part of this video is going to be tips about 12-1. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this Abyss guide. I think this Abyss overall is easier than the previous one. Only 12-1 is a bit harder, but if you have the right teams and if you use the blessing at the max potential, you can definitely clear it pretty easily. And yeah, I hope this video was helpful. I know I came in a little bit late with those tips. I've been a bit busy the past few weeks, so I couldn't really work too much on that Abyss guide, but it's finally here. The enemies for the next 2 rotations should be the same, so for the next 4 weeks you can still use that video in like those tips in the next rotations. And yeah, I hope you find it helpful. If you like the content, please feel free to subscribe and like the video, and I'll see you on the next one. Have a great rest of your day. Bye bye.